Welcome to the Penguin Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Erik Tait. Joining me back this week from his sojourns to the castle, Nick Locapo.
Oh, that's right. Storm the castle.
Nick, how was was the castle stormed?
He might have stormed me. I'm exhausted.
You had an insane week. You were performing with Chipper Lowell and Rocco.
Yeah, it's wild. Totally wild. It was really cool. That's the best part of performing in the Palace is you basically get thrown into shows with people that you just don't expect to do shows with.
Yeah.
And it's different because obviously I've done a lot of shows with a lot of different people, like at P3 and things. We're doing lectures and all that stuff, but it's just a little different because you're there doing your own thing and you're not in charge. So
it's well, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Let's first get to some stuff that came out the last couple of weeks so we can give some insight to people who are interested in it. The first one is this new Craig Petty effect, Superimpose, which is a collector's effect where three cards are selected, they're lost in the deck, they appear between the aces, and then they're lost in the deck again, and then they reappear with their like printed superimposed onto the aces. And I gotta say, I actually have I've been working on a collector's routine for a long time, and I'm really stunned by how good this is.
Yeah, sometimes tricks are just really strong.
Yeah.
I kind of there's two tricks last year that really stood out like this. This one and Transpo Travel.
Yeah.
Where it's just these like sit down at the table, find the aces, something else happens, and the ending is so strong that it's just undeniably good. And that's what this is. It's so easy. Collectors' routines are traditionally pretty difficult, or they're just some heavy lifting involved sometimes. But
they're really not good in a way that's like transparent as to what is happening.
Yeah. This is a great trick. If you watch the demo, you'll love it. The method's awesome. So, and I think you'll find that the surprise ending at the end just really hits hard. It's a good trick. I
know we got a lot to get through today, but I'm going to go on the record with this one. I know, Craig gets a little bit of flack sometimes for how much stuff he produces or for the methods or something like that. I think this is one of the best tricks that Craig Petty has released in years.
Yeah, you could tell it's one he's also done this a lot.
Yeah. For me,
for sure.
For me, this is up there with Chop in how good this is because the method is not only satisfying, it's strong and devilishly clever, and it's like, it's not all self-working. It's got you got to do some stuff with it, but it's great.
Yeah, if you have a venue where you can use a table and you have people that are watching, it's a great trick. It's really super strong trick.
Speaking of strong tricks, the Coffee House Conjuring series with our friend Gregory Wilson is back, and the first one to come out is Creme de la Creme. This is based on an effect from Joel Givens, I think, where the coffee like mixes. You stir the coffee and it becomes cream. But with Greg's nice little variation, he vanishes sugar from a packet and then vanishes cream from his hand, and then they both appear inside the coffee. And the coffee, like when you stir the coffee, the black coffee becomes like you can see the cream mix in, and you're like, where did that come from? It's pretty crazy.
It's got a visual reveal on it, which is cool. Yeah. I think he's also in this one having the people take a picture of the coffee before and after. Really funny.
Yeah.
One of those impromptu tricks from Gregory Wilson that if you were to show it to somebody, it's a miracle, right? Like if you create that scenario of total impromptu magic, this would be a strong trick to show somebody. It's just a quick download. It's an easy one to pick up.
Yeah.
All of the Coffee House Conjuring tricks are good. So this is no different than any of the rest. It's a great piece of impromptu magic you can do at a coffee shop.
Yeah, it's worth. It takes some time to get set up, but once you understand how it works, you're just like, this is how every time you go get coffee, you're going to want to do this trick.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Build a Peanut. by Michael Amar, which has he taught this before?
Probably
But
somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can now it's filmed at the theater with the in-depth instructions on how it's done. This is Michael's version of, well, I guess maybe I can't quite say what the plot is, but it's a build to impossible location where the dollar disappears and ends up inside of a peanut. And the crazy thing is that the peanut, when you hand the spectator the bag of peanuts, here's the bullet points on this. They're holding a bag of peanuts. They open up the bag. They reach in and choose any peanut they want. And that the bill or bills are in the actual peanut that they take.
Yeah, they're like in the shell.
But like the actual one that they pull out of the bag.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
I think we can say the plot that it's based on because I wrote ad copy for this a few days ago, and so I watched the tutorial, and I'm not sure if I put it in there, but I think we can give a hint to our podcast listeners because you can watch a full performance of this and not realize what you're doing because he's changed the method and the handling in a very, very important way.
Yeah, did you write the name of the trick in here?
I'm gonna look. I think
I'm looking here.
I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Gripping stuff for our oh, here, I got it right here. And I talk about the fact that he closes with it at the Magic Castle, something he did while you were there.
Yeah, he just did that last week, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, so I don't write it down, but when you read the description, you'll know. You'll understand what it's based on. But he's made important changes to this mysterious build to impossible location trick that are like genuine advancements in making it better.
And it's so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't do anything really. It's about as simple as it gets. It's masterfully routined. It's great beginning, middle, and end. Strong lines. If you need something for stand up, this is unique and powerful and just easy to do. I mean, it's a great piece of magic.
Yeah. And then you were out, but this came out 2 weeks ago, and so I didn't get a chance to talk about it. But Grip Stick hit the market. This is a pretty exciting project. So if you've ever bought a trick from Penguin that has rough and smooth qualities, where a roughing stick was used to make it, you have already experienced how wonderful Grip Stick is. So Seth Race and the rest of our gimmick team is constantly trying to push the envelope of what is possible. And so a roughing stick is something that you like rub on the back of two playing cards, and then they'll stick together when you apply firm grip to them. So it's how sort of like the invisible deck works, or Popeye Popper decks and stuff like that. But they've created a custom formula, and they've worked for quite a while to come up with the custom formula that they were really liked. So this isn't just like, oh, we bought a bunch of beeswax and marketed it. No, like this is a custom formula that the workshop refined with dozens and dozens and dozens of different formulas that they put together. And so what I like about it too is it comes in regular hold and then also extra hold if you really decide you want something stickier. But it's a great way to prototype your own gaffs, which is fun.
Yeah, you gotta have one laying around. I mean, that tool's been something. It's just invaluable. It's like a nice little thing to have laying around when I'm working on Magic. Obviously, I can gaff up old tricks that I know how to do, or like fix up old decks that I have that need just a little bit more of a spit shine, you know. So if you do any card magic at all, it's just one of those you got to get. It's got a great tutorial as well. You put a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, I really went in deep into the mines on this one. I spent a long time in my library and a long time like rooting around in historical annals trying to find. So I teach you how to make an invisible deck, how to make a pop-eyed popper, how to make a mirage deck, how to make a brainwave deck. Craig Petty actually gave us permission to put his Cards Across on there. It's a Thought of Cards Across, and it's very, very strong. So we actually plucked it out of the lecture and put it in there.
Yeah, it's great.
And then, I teach you just some basic stuff like how to vanish a card, what different patterns, like different application patterns do with it. There's not many stones that I leave unturned in that particular tutorial. I mean, it's a good long time.
It's not a trick. You'll learn tricks with it, but it's not a trick. It's just kind of get it, throw it in your drawer, and then thank me later.
Yeah.
when you need it, because it's like having double stick tape around, or like having rubber cement around. It's just one of those things that you need, and it's going to last you forever. So
it's one of those things that's like in my road case now. So like when so in a couple of weeks I'm headed out to do Mystique, and there's a box that I always take with me now, which is I should have it, but I think it's downstairs because I was using it. But inside of it is an X-Acto knife, a couple of different rolls of tape, a needle, and it's a craft kit is really what it is. Oh, and then some magnets, and then I've got a little golf pencil that I have gaffer tape wrapped around in case I need it. And that little box has helped me so much when I'm on the road. Like, and now there's a grip stick in it because it just needs to be in there because you never know when inspiration's going to strike.
Yeah, for sure. Got to get it.
Do you have a little road kit, a little road crafts kit that you take around with you?
Kinda, yeah. It's mostly gaff tape. These days I am doing more card stuff, so I have like I bring with me like a corner shorter and like some of the fine point Sharpies and an X-Acto knife and a grip stick and not too much else. I'd have to, it's not in a kit. It's always like, they're always just attached to the tricks that I bring.
Yeah.
They're just like part of the props for that particular trick. But it probably should go into like its own box or something.
Well, you know me, I'm all about little tiny boxes now. I'm like making my own boxes. Making boxes is a big deal in the Tait household here. Yeah.
Cause I also have like crazy stuff like sandpaper.
Yeah.
And stickers. It's just stupid shit.
I think, I don't know if you do this, but I've like, with the different Mystiques and Chicago and now Nashville, there's certain things that I can't fly with. And so I've got like little hidden areas in all of the performers' condos across the country where I'm like, oh, okay, I know if I'm going here where I stashed a little bottle of Plastidip, or this one, I've got like a particular set of knives that I've gotten over the years. So I've got these little hidden stashes all over the country where I'm just like, okay, yeah, I know where that is.
The only thing I stash at those venues are hair dryers. So if you end up in any of like the apartments at the Castle or House of Cards or whatever, the hair dryer, I likely bought it, and I usually put it in Sharpie with my name on it. So not that I want it back, it's just funny.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I always have to buy a hair dryer whenever I'm there. They never have them. They have them now.
Yeah. I got to thank you then, because the last time because you get nice hair dryers too, and I use one for the beard.
It's whatever CVS sells for $25 or whatever it is.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Castle and what you were doing there. And
yeah, sure.
Tell me what was it like to see Rocco performing? I mean, like doing the act.
I did work with Rocco that one time when he did Penguin Live, but it was long ago at this point. It's like over 10 years ago. He's such a pro. Like, if you've never seen Rocco, he stands on stage and does miracles and to music. He doesn't talk, and he just makes things appear. And the things he makes appear are actually pretty raw. Raw's not the right word, but he makes food appear and water and money, right? Like essential items to living, right? So he's got this I don't want to godlike quality to him on the stage. And he just produces stuff and it ends up on the floor. And by the end of his show, he makes a mess,
Yeah.
to put it bluntly there, which is awesome. And it's like exactly what you want to see if you're going to like you just it's so memorable.
Yeah.
Everything is everywhere by the end of his performance.
There,
He did 3 sets. He did it like his food act, and he did a Miser's Dream act,
mhm.
and a water bowl act,
Oh,
which
cool.
which was awesome. And at the end of it is just confetti everywhere. And just to watch a guy, he's been around for a while now,
Hmm.
um, and to watch him with still have his enthusiasm for what he does.
Hmm.
Obviously, he had people help him set up and and reset, which at this point, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's such a you almost have to.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could do that thing 4 times in a night, like we were doing 3 times or 4 times in a night,
That's
and have
crazy.
to reset. Yeah, because it took them not a ton of time, but
Yeah.
with 2 to 3 people to clean up,
Mhm.
like it would take some time after each show, 10, 15 minutes to
Mhm.
get the place clear. And then, man, the reset on that act is amazing,
There,
So just watching somebody go through those motions of what he's learned all, throughout his career is pretty
five
cool.
5 or 6 years ago, I saw him at 4F, and he's got a thing he does with lectures where he wears like a clear raincoat and he loads the
Yeah.
raincoat in front of you. But now he's also got it like as an act, and he just did that where he just like he's got a mannequin, it's got the this raincoat on it, and he starts music, and then he loads this incredible appearing food act into it. Then he puts it on, and the music shifts to his performance music, and he does it, and you can just see everything. But it's even like it's even more mystifying because you're watching things just go up and down his sleeves, and he's like sleeving liquid, or which is like wild to say, and you're just watching everything just like move around. And it's almost like watching a flow artist, like someone who does like poi or like fire spinning, because it's not just well rehearsed, but it's well rehearsed in how like it surprises him every time those pretzels appear in his hand, or that milk appears out of nowhere. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty nuts.
He was pretty flawless
Yeah.
on the stage. It was pretty special to be able to stand in the wings and just
Mhm.
kind of like watch it. And
Mhm.
it's really nothing to see.
Yeah.
Especially even from the back. It's like it's just pretty much in awe
Yeah.
most of the time watching Rocco do his thing. Yeah, I was lucky I get to host the show, so um, being in the palace is I know a place a lot of people don't end up being able to see back there. So
Mhm.
it's I never take it for granted whenever I'm back there. It's very
Yeah.
cool.
No, it's your second time doing the castle this year, isn't it?
It's my first time doing it this
Oh,
year. I
okay.
did it twice last year.
Oh, okay. You were
It
because
feels like I was there twice this year, but
yeah. I
yeah.
guess it was maybe towards the end of the year. So
Yeah, yeah, it was October. Last time I did it was with Nathan Fan and
mhm.
David Diebel last October.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, because then the last time because we worked together there in like June or something like that, which was
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. So it was June. It was a year ago. It
yeah,
was the last time we were both there.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. We got to get back there together again sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And then you got coming up, you got another show here in Columbus. You're doing Masterpiece Magic, your big stage show.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
Um, might be I'll take a little break from those for a bit. I think after this one.
yeah.
So
I'm not.
not like gonna stop doing it. It's
Oh
just
no.
put it on the shelf for a few months for
Yeah,
sure.
think up something new.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm starting to get the creative bug myself. I'm trying to figure out. I need to figure out what the end of the new show is, but I really want to start working on a new show. And I'm just like,
mm,
I don't have enough. I don't have enough stage time at the moment that like I feel like very protective of my current show, where like I want to do it because I really like doing it, but I'm like I don't have like a lot of like places that I'm doing it very frequently because I'm only really going out on the road a couple times a year right now. And
mm,
but I do have the itch. I'm like, oh, I think it's time for something new, and I don't know quite where it's gonna go, but
mm.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll
What are
finally
you gonna do?
maybe I'll finally work on the 100% card act.
Yeah, you just got to force yourself to do it. I mean, um, the I did only two pieces at the I was a host, so I
Mhm.
was only doing like 10 minutes
Yeah.
at the castle. And while I brought things that I have worked through,
Hmm.
one was pretty new,
Hmm.
which I know you've seen once, was the it's that time tra I mean
Hmm.
internally I call it my time travel deck,
Yeah.
which is a shuffled deck or new deck order gets shuffled
Hmm.
and then put back in a new deck order where you go back in time to do it. But I did that at the castle,
Oh yeah,
so
how'd that get received?
it was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's not the trick is good.
Hmm.
The trick is very good, but the goal of it, the aim of it, was really to try to open the show in a more theatrical sense,
Hmm.
as opposed to, just there's a fun trick there, but it really, you're in the Palace of Mystery, so you want to almost show off the lights and the
Hmm.
sound and all
Hmm.
that stuff right off the rip of the show,
Yeah.
and let them know it is a stage show. So, um, but I guess to back on that, like when I got the word that I was going to the palace and was going to host it,
Hmm.
and who I was with, as the host, you want to let the other performers do their thing,
Yeah.
right? So now, obviously, I'm not going to be doing nearly anything close to what Rocco's doing, but and Chipper, I asked what he was up to,
Yeah.
so he sent me his set list, and I just realized nobody was doing card tricks.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'll do some card tricks, because then why not?
Yeah.
That'll add a lot of variety to the show.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, which I tend to do whenever I'm working with other people like that. But
Hmm.
so that's why I ended up putting that at the top of the show, and then the middle part of the show was my multiple selection.
Oh, cool. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
haven't seen Nick do multiple selection, it's well worth taking a look at. You've really put in the time and the work on that. Maybe it's one of those things that I've never really come around to doing a multiple selection routine, but maybe I should start thinking about that.
But that's the thing,
Hmm.
if you need some new stuff,
Hmm.
like go to Mystique or whatever and just force yourself to do it. Because
Yeah.
like I've done my multiple selection. I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
And right now it's kind of been layered into my show.
Hmm.
So I've had some ideas on how to like end it, but I've not actually done it,
Yeah.
because the ending is part of my other show. But
Hmm.
now that I ripped it out and I
Hmm.
had it at the castle, I'm like, well, let's try it out.
Hmm.
And it turned out to be super strong the way that I was closing it. So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
learned a lot. That's my point. Like being able to just work on something
Yeah.
anywhere
Yeah.
can deliver results that you're just not expecting. So,
The last time I was at the castle, I was working on. Uh, so I stopped doing the FISM act, which was nice. I did not having to do that, but I was doing a borrowed deck show, which was a lot of fun. And the one thing that I really wanted to come out of it was I wanted to have my collector's routine. So speaking of, to bring this full circle, since we talked about superimpose, I have a 3-phase collector's routine that's pretty, balls to the wall. It involves some funky sleights that I found in an old John Rockerbomber book, and it's pretty interesting because it's got some very direct loads, where you're actually displaying cards and then weaving the selections between the kings while you're actually doing the display. But I'd never really had a good presentation for it, and so I just kind of said to myself, "This is going in the middle of the show at the castle. I'm gonna see what comes out of my mouth because I know that my opening is strong and I know my closing is strong because I'm doing my card to pocket in the beginning, and then I'm doing that trick freak out from the six greatest card tricks in the history of Magic. That's the closer in the castle because people yell and scream. But forcing myself to do that collectors in the middle was like, by the end of it, I was like, oh, I can actually do this routine, and it now it exists as something that I do, which is fun. And knowing I can do it out of a borrowed shuffled deck gives me a lot of excitement too.
yeah, yeah. So just,
Mm-hmm.
things just come from paying attention
Yeah.
and trying new stuff. You got to try new
Yeah.
stuff, otherwise nothing happens.
Yeah.
You're just doing the same thing all the time.
That's the
Try an
takeaway.
idea. Yeah. I mean, you want to be smart about it. It's not like I wasn't showing up at the castle with a brand new routine I'd never done before,
Yeah.
but I was able to try out. I actually tried out different multiple endings to the multiple selection in that week, and yeah, came away with something incredibly strong.
Oh,
So
excellent.
yeah, it was fun.
Because I'm not averse to trying new stuff at the restaurant. Actually, what I have been doing at the restaurant lately, which is so much fun, is mental photography.
Oh, that's funny.
Have you done that trick in a while?
Not for a long time.
Oh,
I only ever did it after I saw Bill Malone do it on one of his DVDs. That
yeah,
was the first time I ever saw it. Never knew about the trick other than that. I bought one, and yeah, I mean, I it might have been like the heaviest gaff deck I ever
yeah.
purchased, you know. So I was like, what? I didn't really understand it. Um, but yeah, it's such a good trick. But I've never done it to answer your question. Never like gone out and done it all the time.
You should pick one up and throw it in your pocket because when I first like really got seriously into magic, I was working in a pitch shop in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and that was one of my favorite tricks to do there because it had like this own complete routine that the pitch that would like that pitched it, but also was like really interesting about like sort of displaying this blank deck and claiming it has psychic ink. But as things print and then you end up with this entire deck of cards, they know that it's a trick deck, but the visuals are so strong and the trick moves itself along in a way that's very compelling. And so doing that in the restaurant, like, it only takes like 45 seconds to do the whole routine, but it's just a killer. It's just an absolute killer. So I've been
Yeah, I
having a
know it's
lot of fun doing that.
I think the Epic deck, Rick Lax, Scott Alexander. I
Oh yeah.
can't remember if that's very similar, but
Whitewash. Whitewash is the Rick Lax handling of it. That's where you have a full deck of cards and then it goes blank.
oh no, he did. There was a trick with Scott Alexander called Epic Deck,
Oh,
which
okay.
I think was their like version of the mental photography deck. I can't remember that. I did demo that for a while,
Yeah.
which was a lot of fun. But yeah, those tricks like that are super fun.
It's excellent. Well, speaking of super fun, we got a great interview coming up here with Frankie Foti from House of Cards in Nashville. So everyone should stick around and listen to that because you're gonna hear about all about House of Cards and about how Frankie is tearing it up in Nashville. Nick, see you next week.
See ya.
Thanks, as always, to Nick for being on the show. If you want to grab some tickets to see Masterpiece Magic here in Columbus, Ohio, go to p3magictheater.com for ticketing information. On to the main event. Frankie Foti went from junior at the Magic Castle to one of the top working magicians in the country. He's not just a magician's magician, he connects with audiences on their level and invites them into an incredible magic experience. He's a mainstay at Nashville's incredible magic venue, House of Cards. I grabbed some of Frankie's time via Zoom, and now you get to join our conversation. Frankie Foti, thanks so much for joining me here on the Penguin Magic Podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you because I'm a little embarrassed because I've come down to Nashville twice now and not had you on the podcast yet. And you are one of the go-to guys in the magic scene in Nashville and at House of Cards.
Thanks, man. I am honored to be on the podcast. Yeah, I'm one of the resident magicians here in Nashville, Tennessee, at the House of Cards.
So I knew you a little bit in Los Angeles because you were a junior member when I was out there. And then you were, performing at the castle regularly, doing lots of gigs. And then you moved from Los Angeles, the sort of beating heart of the magic world at the Magic Castle, to Nashville, not typically known as a magic hub. Walk me through how that happened.
Basically, what happened is during the pandemic, a couple months in, House of Cards was going to reopen, but they were going to reopen with like multiple teams. So in case anything happened to one team, we would have like a backup team. And there was like a whole thing they were dealing with. So I got a call basically asking me to come out here for 2 months. From Joey Martinez, the entertainment director here, who I've known since I was like basically a junior at the Magic Castle. And he's like, yeah, come out here for 2 months. You got to drive across the country though, and you have like a week to get here. Like, can you do it? And I was like, let me figure it out. And then I figured it out. And then kind of a month in, I was like, I don't think things in LA are gonna go back to normal for a little bit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is there any possibility that I can stay here? And there was like one spot left on the roster. and I kind of just slid in there and then just never left. So I wasn't supposed to move here. I was just supposed to be here for 2 months, and then literally, I think yesterday, May 12th, was 4 years
Mhm.
since like I drove out here.
Yeah.
So it's been an amazing 4 years, and I'm really enjoying it out here.
It's incredible. And House of Cards is such a fun venue to perform at. I mean, it's underneath the Johnny Cash Museum. So it's below an insane amount of memorabilia. But the House of Cards itself has some incredible memorabilia. I mean, like, I think aren't all the posters in there like originals from the golden
Oh
era
yeah,
of
our
Magic?
owner Bill went to like, like the basically like everything on the wall is original. He wanted to make sure that everything was like legit. So
Hmm.
the playing cards, which are I think our oldest one is from like 1490 or something like that, like
Hmm.
all of them are like obviously behind glass,
Hmm.
but they are absolutely like one of like the coolest features of like House of Cards, because like not only are you going to like dine and see amazing magic, but you're like dining in like a magic history museum almost.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a full performance suit, like Blackstone's performance suit, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then in the Carter the Great's showroom, where I perform and you perform frequently, Carter the Great's actual close-up table is in there, which is like, it's wild that they let you perform with that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I really think about it. I'm like, the amount of like magicians who have like now performed like on this table, including obviously Carter, and it's just like there, like not behind glass, like
Mhm.
just like there's playing cards on it or whatever that magic prop we're using. Like, it's pretty wild.
Yeah,
It really is kind of an honor, you
yeah.
know.
And then there's an original oil painting poster of his as the backdrop of the wall, which I'm like, why isn't that behind glass? Like, why am I allowed to be anywhere near that?
Yeah, and I think it was originally found in his like basement or
Hmm.
something in like San Francisco, and then somehow we ended up with it.
So when people go to the House of Cards, you will get to your show in the Carter the Great showroom in a little bit, but frequently where they see you is on the tables,
Hmm.
right? Uh, Having come from the castle where you were sort of doing formal sets in the close-up gallery, or maybe a pickup show in the basement, to this sort of unusual House of Cards, like the tables are different there because it's not like you're strolling from table to table. You're sort of holding court for people. How has that changed the way you do magic?
That's a great question. Um, it's definitely a little bit of like a different environment, and honestly, I now kind of like prefer it to like I love doing strolling magic, but like having your own like table and area, it's like your own like mini office essentially. So it's like
Hmm.
these people are like coming into your world, and then like there's so many more things I feel like you can do with like a table,
Hmm.
with just like moves and just like things that you can do like with like the audience and stuff like that for like routines. So I kind of enjoy having like a little environment to do magic in, because like you can add things, you can bring props out and kind of like make it your own space.
Hmm.
So the magic that I do typically for like groups like that, like I have a little bit more time than like I would during strolling. So like I can kind of like not tell super long stories, but you can kind of, do longer routines that I wouldn't be able to do in like, like a strolling like close-up environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the tables are there's two different ones because there's one that's more of kind of a loungy area, and then there's
Mhm.
one where you're behind this like great big marble desk and everyone is kind of
Yep.
seated. Do you have like different? Have you sort of created different shows for those different areas? Just because.
Yeah, I mean, like overall, the
Hmm.
show is kind of like similar between one and the other, but
Hmm.
there's certain things I can't do at one just because like one is more like the Bill Jocelyn table at the Magic Castle.
Hmm.
It's like a table where everyone can kind of gather around. There's like really great sight lines. The
Hmm.
other one is more similar to like I would say like the museum, like at the castle, like
Yeah.
downstairs,
Hmm.
where it's like, it's a little bit more parlor-esque because there's like a little bit of distance between like the audience and you.
Hmm. And I mean, so you're there 4, 5, 6 nights a week?
Yeah, I mean, every week is different, but
Mhm.
typically at least 4 or 5 nights a week, which is a lot of performing hours.
Yeah, and do you find yourself like breaking in new material more frequently because of that, or do you find yourself focusing on
Hmm.
material and honing it? Because, I mean, how many sets do you do in a night? 10, 15, 20?
I mean, like typically, like on a busy night, probably like upwards of like 10, because it's like
Yeah.
basically like two sets on the hour,
Hmm.
starting around like 5:30 or 6:30, depending on weekday versus weekend.
Hmm.
And then we go till about 11:30.
Yes, I mean you're doing a lot. You're getting a lot of reps in for anything. So I guess that does take me back to how are you finding keeping yourself interested in your material? Is it by breaking in new material or looking for new things in the hits that you're playing? I mean, it's something I find
Hmm.
myself struggling in with my own
Yeah.
strolling shows.
I mean, honestly, like I'm not breaking in as much new material as I should be.
Hmm.
Like my desk right now is just covered with just like random new ideas that I would love to play with, but just like haven't gotten to.
Hmm.
But like occasionally, like yeah, like I like to throw in like one or two new things. Like I'm always playing with something just
Hmm.
to like kind of keep it like interesting. And then for the most part, like the show is like relatively the same, other than like the one or new two things that like I'm kind of playing with. So I always try and play with something new just to like, keep myself in it. And then
Hmm.
also like the thing that like kind of keeps it like entertaining for me is like specifically at House of Cards, we have like a lot of tourists and we have some locals. So it's
Hmm.
like the audience is constantly different.
Hmm.
So it's like I can just basically like start the night working on routine and then end the night like having so much more knowledge of, oh, I should do it this way or that way. Like it's a fantastic like ground to like try new things because like sometimes like there's like the close-up areas they'll hold about maybe 15 to 20 people
Hmm.
comfortably, and then like you'll have some people like standing around and stuff.
Hmm.
So like the amount of people that can come over there, sometimes you only have a couple, and while you're waiting you're like, hey, do you guys mind like if I like try this like new thing on you? And they're like, oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Hmm.
So it is a great environment to like do that.
And how did you go about developing your stage show for that room? Because it is arguably one of the more challenging rooms that I've played, only because of the way it loads and the way you're having to sort of there's no wing or like you have to start out behind the curtain. It's a very interesting room, and the challenge is fun. I'm not knocking it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the way I would see it, it's like a perfect in between of like a parlor and like a Peller show
Mhm.
because the room holds about like 70. And so you can kind of do some card things and like it'll definitely play because like they'll be able to see it. But it's definitely like, it's got that feeling that you can do like larger stuff in there as well. So basically the way that I tried to orchestrate my show was I wanted everyone to feel kind of like they were being involved. So I do a lot of things with like a ton of like audience participation and like I kind of like walk out into the audience at several points. So I just wanted like a show that's very like quick and interactive because the audiences who are typically coming to these shows have like never seen a magic show like ever.
Mhm.
And like when I hear that, I first of all feel like honored that I get to be the first like, magician to like perform for them, but like I keep that in mind. So like I always want to make sure that like what I'm doing is really going to like leave them with like a good lasting experience, especially if this is like their first magic show.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's a huge responsibility sometimes when you're showing somebody and they've never seen a magic show for the very first time. Like I know that like I've worked so hard to get my show tight, clean, and have the magic really powerful. And when people leave it, I want them to remember it, but I almost become risk averse in working out new things for the show. Like I'm trying to work on my second 45-minute act right now, but I'm so concerned about the people who haven't seen a magic show before that wanting to break in like a new ending or a new trick can sometimes feel uh, irresponsible almost. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I know the feeling, like, especially when like I'm there, like if you're gonna do like an ending trick and it's like a new thing, that is such like a intense feeling because technically we are being paid to be there.
mm-hmm,
So we gotta like, have some type of, outer ending or something like that. But then it's like, well, how do you break in the new material?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a tough environment. That's why I always save like whatever I'm working on for like either just like a small little group or like second or third in, and like I will genuinely mention that, hey, this is a new thing I'm just
Yeah.
like playing with. And like I think honestly, like the audience kind of likes seeing like a little bit like behind the scenes, because it's not
Yeah.
like, you're super like, pulling back the curtain, but it's like, whoa, we get to be like the first audience to see like this new thing developing. Like, I think they enjoy it.
I think that's a really good point. I think that like sometimes we give audiences too much credit for knowing things that are inside of our magic brain, but also sometimes we don't give them enough credit for like understanding that what we do is an art. And if you impress them with one or two things and then you go, hey, do you want to see something new? They'll like be more enthusiastic and like not quite forgiving, but like real excited that something is new. I mean, like you have to convey that in a way that is genuine and not like using it as a plot device, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sometimes it's really fun to like for them to see that like stuff beginning, because they know, they're not six, we're not crazy, none of this is real.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely get your broad range of reactions to that, but like I think for the most part, like most people like are willing to just kind of like enjoy the moment. And then like it's always interesting when talking to like, people like after the shows about things, and they're like, "Yeah, but like no one tries and like messes with you, right?" And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, "Oh no, there's definitely a ton of people who love to do that, especially when alcohol has been involved." But like people are so shocked because they're like, well, I mean, like we're all just here to like have a good time. Like,
Yeah.
why would they do that? And I'm like, that is a fantastic question.
How do you handle people who've imbibed a little too much? Because those people aren't always being disruptive of the show to be a jerk. Sometimes they like legitimately think that they're helping, and the adult beverages have sort of lubricated their ability to discern whether or not they are acting a fool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the way I look at it is like as a kid, I did a bunch of like improv classes. To me, it's like improv time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'll play with them and I'll have some fun, but like I never want to like, kind of like overtly get negative, because like that's how like the energy gets like real awkward between you and the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll play with them and like try and like, kind of calm the situation down, and then like, kind of get the idea, hey, like we're doing a show here, like let's continue with the show. And then I always try and kill them with kindness,
Mm-hmm.
because, I feel like that's the best way to do it, because we kind of are in like the hospitality situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, these are paying customers who, we want them to leave happy and not angry,
Mm-hmm. Uh, Outside of House of Cards, your career and reputation has been growing. I mean, I keep seeing you on the road a lot. Have you is being at House of Cards helped you to like sharpen your skills to the point where you can get some of that stuff, or was some of that happening beforehand, or like how are you finding this sort of transition from like guy in the trenches to guy doing high profile shows?
I mean, it's pretty incredible. I mean, House of Cards is definitely a big factor in that. I mean, being able to work like 4 to 5 when I'm doing the stage, 7 nights
Mm-hmm.
a week doing magic, like the amount of people who are seeing me perform, because like that's
Mm-hmm.
all like gigs are, is just, somehow someone sees you, and then, out of like all those people who see you, maybe 5 of them will be interested,
Mm-hmm.
3 of them will follow through, and then one actually goes through, like whatever the numbers is. So
Yeah.
just that amount of volume, like that's how I'm getting like a lot of these outside gigs. And
Mm-hmm.
like I was doing a little bit of traveling when I was living in LA,
Mm-hmm.
but now that I'm here, like the amount of gigs that like I've been able to get, like I had this gig in Tulsa earlier, I'm going back later on this year.
Mm-hmm.
I was literally just in Vegas yesterday. I'm gonna go, I think, to a gig in Dallas in 2 months or 3 months. I don't remember which month it is. So it's been like I'm just like so fortunate. Like I get to look in the mirror and be like, I literally get paid to travel around the country because of this. Like
Yeah.
that is absolute insanity. So it wasn't my intention, like as a kid, like it wasn't necessarily like I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a magician when I grow up,
Mm-hmm.
but it just kind of like happened, and I'm just so happy that this is what I get to do.
It seems to me that some of the best magicians I know are people who sort of like accidentally became high profile professional.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I was put in a situation where I had to figure out a job.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had to go move with her mom to like, take care of her.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hey, I'm moving out in 2 months. Like, you kind of have to like figure something out." So it was either like magic or I don't know what else. And I was doing like brunches at the
Mm-hmm.
Magic Castle,
Mm-hmm.
so like that was kind of giving me some money.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like tried to work at Starbucks for 2 weeks, and after a week I quit
Yeah.
because I couldn't afford to pay my bills, and I just full steamed ahead with magic, and then I
Mm-hmm.
never looked back.
Wow. So you haven't had like a real job in a long time. Not that what we do for a living isn't a real job,
Yeah.
but it's not.
No, I mean, like I tried, like I
Yeah.
genuinely tried, but I always knew I was going to be a performer. Like
Mm-hmm.
performing is in my blood. Like my dad was like an actor, so like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like so comfortable just being on stage. And then like magic kind of just came into that a lot because of that guy. I don't know if you can see, but I have a Dean's shop.
Oh
It's an
yeah.
edition of the Linking Ring with him on the cover.
Oh, because you spent a lot of time with Dean Dill when you were younger, right?
Yeah, I lived 1 block away from the shop, so
Whoa.
I was very fortunate to have him as my mentor, and literally would not be here if it wasn't for him.
Dean Dill was your first mentor in magic.
Yeah.
Well, that explains a lot.
I mean, I
how
walked
did
in there with my
how did you start a relationship with Dean Dill, or a friendship with Dean
well,
Dill?
I was a block away from there, so like we would go to like a lot of places in the area, and my dad needed to go to a pharmacy that was literally like a like right across the street.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like about to walk in there, and I was like dabbling with card tricks. Like I knew like a couple of card tricks, and we look across the way and we see that sign which said like hair cutting and magic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, "Dad, will you go in there with me?" And I can still remember to this day the exact tricks that he did. And this is over like 13 years ago.
Yeah.
So he opened with a version of like this, that, and the other, but it was like a stop, a go, and then I don't remember what the other one was.
Mm-hmm.
He did a color changing coin that fried me, and at the end I was like trying to like break apart the coin because like I couldn't understand, like how he changed it. And then he did Revelation. Did you ever get to see him do Revelation?
I never did, unfortunately. One of my greatest regrets is that when I lived in Los Angeles, I did not get down to the shop to actually meet or see Dean Dill. It's one of my greatest regrets. I was very fortunate to work on the Blizzard project and got deep inside history on Dean Dill and was able to share that, but I never got to see it. Can you tell our listeners what Revelation was?
It sounds like a pipe dream, but this is what happens. Basically, on the table, there's an envelope with like a glass on top of it. So like no one can get at it. And then the spectator is asked to like they have like a piece of paper to draw any playing card in front of them. Let's say like the Jack of Hearts. He says remove the top, like the glass, and he says in the envelope, do you feel something? Yeah. He dumps it out, and then it's exactly one folded card. There's nothing else in the envelope, and it's exactly the Jack of Hearts. Now, coming from like knowing like one or two card tricks, my mind was literally destroyed when
Yeah.
I saw that. And then he was like, "Hey, do you want to like do anything?" And I was like, "No, I'm okay. Like, I don't think I can compete with that." And initially, I was gonna take lessons with him,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't really afford them, so he literally just let me come into the shop, and like I would get there on Fridays at like 3 p.m. And then like everyone who was like performing at the castle would like come by there, and so we would jam until like 10, 11, 12, and I would just sit there like a fly on a wall just being like, well, what's the better double lift, like this or
Mm-hmm.
this? And it's like, well, what do you think about this? And like we would just go for hours and hours and hours. So that like kind of accelerated my learning like a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Wow. So this is sort of like the golden age of, or like the second. I mean, when Dean was running his shop and people were down there, like that was like the second golden age of close-up magic because there was so many influential people who went
Yeah.
through his shop and were creating unbelievable things in there. You must have seen explosion before a lot of other people.
Yeah, Dean would always do that in the shop when someone new came to town because that was like his baby.
Hmm.
So I got to see him do that a bunch. Of course, Dean's box, he did that a bunch, which is beautiful.
Hmm.
The beads, which I think I have in like one of my boxes around me.
Hmm.
He had so many great like routines, like. And he was able to do magic with this like little twinkle in his eye that you
Hmm.
knew that like it's like, okay, like I get it, like I'm here with you. And I feel like that disarmed the audience a lot.
Hmm. So how do you feel that Dean ended up influencing the work that you do today? Because it sounds like he was a mentor from like almost right off the jump for you.
I mean, his thinking is like I can see it like in a lot of routines I do. I'm like, like I can kind of like almost like hear like what he would suggest or like say from spending like that much time with him.
Hmm.
So his ability to like think things through to like another level,
Hmm.
because like I feel like a lot of times like he would take routines where they like stopped at one point and then he would just like keep it going essentially. So that way of thinking about like the complexity of routines is definitely like influenced like my style of magic.
Hmm. I just want to I want to jump back to something. I was sort of making fun of you about not having a real job like ever, but I think one of the things I admire about you when I watch you work is that you are so relatable to other people. Like they just
Thanks, man.
immediately captured and charmed by you. But I have to imagine that basically being a full-time magician from the time that you had like when you were like what 18, 19, like you didn't really have a choice, right? So how has that affected your ability to be relatable to audiences? Because I imagine that you have a different set of experiences than most people, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I don't know, like I have the best of both worlds. Like I am like fairly social, but at the same time, like I love spending, time alone, just like hanging out, shuffling with cards.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh I think because of like when I was like a kid, I also did like acting stuff in LA. Like
Mm-hmm.
that also gave me like, a lot of like other kids like my age to like hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had, some similar experiences and like, collected a lot of friends that way.
Mm-hmm.
But like most of my friends end up being people who are like also like in the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm able to like still, kind of like relate to like people because we all have like this similar experiences. Magic is just another element in it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. It's just that you're focusing on like being social and being present and aware in the moment, and the fact that we have different backgrounds doesn't really matter. It's because the human experience that you share is so close.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think that like being there present in the moment like
Mm-hmm.
adds so much to the show. Like, I mean, it's so simple, but I can't tell you like how big a reaction it gets. Like when you're in the middle of doing something and then like what was the card? And like let's say the card was like the seven of hearts, and
Mm-hmm.
then they're like, oh, like someone over here is like two of clubs, and I'm like, was that it, guys? Two of clubs? Like, no, it was the seven of hearts. And then you
Mm-hmm.
do whatever you do, you produce the card, and then you're like, not only that, but inside of my pocket is the
Mm-hmm.
two of clubs.
Yeah.
And it's like that reaction gets like a crazy like David Blaine scream
Mm-hmm.
reaction because it was like, how did he like know like just like in that moment that that was gonna happen? And so like I like staying present with them in the
Yeah.
moment. So if I hear anything like that, or even if just someone like says the card, like that happens all the
Mm-hmm.
time, where like everyone will be seven hearts, someone says seven of diamonds,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll be like, well, not only that, like I knew that. So just like basically being there with them in that moment, I feel like makes them feel like you're almost like having a conversation than being like talked at, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And being able to be present and in the moment and aware of things that are happening can give you the ability to change something up on the fly and get those So at my restaurant gig, I noticed, this is a couple weeks ago, I think I've mentioned this on the pod before, but like this woman had a necklace that was very small. It was maybe inch and a half wide, quarter of an inch tall, and it had a very light engraving of a heart, the state of Connecticut, then an arrow, then another heart, and then the state of Ohio. And I just said, hey, how long has it been since you moved here from Connecticut? And it freaked her. Like she had like a bigger reaction than she did to double cross, which I had just done for her, which is a very powerful trick. And
Yeah.
it was that it was being in the moment and just noticing something and taking a swing that, like, it's okay if it doesn't work or hit, but it was that connection that made it more powerful. And that's exactly what you're talking about with, like, someone says the two of clubs and you just sort of like casually look for the two of clubs, palm it out and bring it out. I mean, that's a very, very powerful skill that I think a lot of people overlook. And
because like I feel like magic, especially like close up, is like very like conversational, whereas like stage is more presentational, but like while wanting to feel like conversational almost. So it is kind of honestly like it's a skill. Like it's part of like the thing that like makes like I feel like a good close up performer is their ability to kind of like interact with the audience. And like you're gonna get people who are constantly kind of shouting out things, and it's just kind of like flowing with that, you know?
Well, Frankie, we're about out of time, and I just wanted to give you this platform. Where are you going to be next? Because people know they can come see you at House of Cards, and they need to come check you out at House of Cards. But where are you off to next? Where can our listeners see your magic?
Currently I will be at House of Cards for the next couple months. I have a bunch of like private gigs and stuff in Nashville and then outside, so I don't have any current shows coming up. But basically I post all of my stuff on my socials, which is at Foti Magic, Foti Magic, and I post my schedule there.
Awesome, excellent. Well, we'll definitely have you back on the podcast soon, and I can't wait to get back down to Nashville and not only share some. Oh, I have one more question.
Okay.
This is something I learned from you while I was down there. What is the hot ticket as far as meals go at House of Cards when you're a performer? What's the go-to meal down there?
I mean, typically, are you talking about the mac and cheese with chorizo? That's typically like one of the go-tos, or the lamb is also another solid option, or the elk. I mean, there's a lot of really good food options at House of Cards.
With the lamb, because it comes with the potatoes as well, so you don't have to order the extra. That's you gotta do some food hacking there too. No, it's seriously, the food down there is amazing. But we'll have to have you back on, and I can't wait to share the stage with you again. Frankie, thanks so much for joining us here on the Penguin Magic Podcast.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time at House of Cards.
That's going to do it for this week, kids. Thanks so much to Frankie for being on the show, and thanks to you for listening. Heads up, I'll be in San Diego in a couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to saying hello to all of the Penguin fans down there at the Mystique Dining Theater and the Prestige Magic Lounge, and who knows, maybe I'll debut a couple of new tricks. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing the IBM members in Tacoma, where I'll be performing at the IBM International Convention. As always, we're a weekly podcast, so be sure to like and subscribe, as well as share your favorite episodes on the social media platform that you've been looking at silly dog tricks on. If you wanted to reach out to me about anything on this week's show, you'll have to send it to me on a nice dog treat, because I have a house full of trained dogs tonight. My mentor Scott Houghton from Mutts Gone Nuts is in town tonight, and I'm playing host to his pack of performing pooches. But if dog acts aren't your cup of tea, you can always hit me up on Instagram at Erik Tait. That's at ERIKTAIT. From me and everyone else here at the P3 Magic Studios, practice, perform.